Hello everyone, Lurgs here, and today it's how to fix an E02 error on your LAY-Z-SPA. What we'll do is simply change the filter and hopefully this will fix your E02 error, and after that I'll share with you some top tips to prevent you ever getting an E02 error. And that is all the tips to keep your water nice and clean and fresh. First thing you need to do is switch off the hot tub at the mains, not only for safety purposes but this will also reset the unit. Now what we'll do is we'll simply replace the filter for a brand new filter. So we need to remove the filter housing from the LAY-Z-SPA. So you're just gently turning it anti-clockwise. There we go, that is removed. Just going to take that indoors to the sink and then remove the filter from the inside. So remove this screw on the back, turning that anti-clockwise. Then you can remove the outer housing. And that is the filter in there. And you can see that this one is pretty dirty and pretty clogged up. Make sure you give this a good rinse. This might be a bit slimy, might have lots of long hairs in it. So give that a good rinse. Now this filter is pretty dirty. You can actually clean these and I'll put a link above now about how to do that. But today I'm going to be replacing this with a brand new paper filter from LAY-Z-SPA. You can also buy sponge versions of these. So take your filter housing and you're placing it inside the filter housing, inside the rubbers. Make sure none of those rubbers inside are trapped. Make sure it sits inside. Then you're putting the base on. Squeeze it so it's nice and tight. Then flip it over and then lock it into place using this plastic locking nut. So that brand new filter is in the housing, ready to go back in the spa. Now for easier access, it's best to remove the Chem Connect. Just simply turn that slightly anti-clockwise and remove it. That gives you better access to install the new filter and housing. So just line it up nice and parallel and then turning it clockwise to lock it in. Now this should go on very simply like it does here. If it feels like it's not going on, do not force it. It should go on nice and easy. You don't want to damage those threads. That is now locked into position. I've put a brand new chlorine tablet inside the Chem Connect, so just install that back into the hot tub by lining it up and gently turning it clockwise. I'll put a link above now about how that works. Then switch your LAY-Z-SPA back on at the plug and hopefully that is your E02 error fixed. If you're still getting an error, you can try this reset button on the side of the heat pump unit. You just hold that in for a few seconds. To prevent your water ever looking like this and prevent further E02 errors happening, follow these top tips. Tip 1. Ideally, before anyone gets in your LAY-Z-SPA, it's a great idea to have a shower. This just washes off any deodorants, any skin creams, sun cream, fake tans, things like that, which can murk up your water and make it pretty disgusting very quickly. Tip 2 is just to lay a towel next to your LAY-Z-SPA and make sure that before anyone gets in the LAY-Z-SPA that they just wipe their feet just to get rid of any bits of dirt and grit which can get onto your feet just before you climb in. Tip 3, ideally anybody with long hair, that should be tied up because if long hair gets in the filter that can block it up very quickly. Tip 4, if it's absolutely lashing down with rain, it's not a good idea to spend time in your LAY-Z-SPA because every droplet of rain has a bit of dirt in it. So unless you've got a gazebo type cover over the top of your LAY-Z-SPA, it's not a good idea to go in it when it's raining. Tip 5, it's a good idea to get out any debris from the water if you can see it. I've just got this sieve which I keep. You can buy accessory cleaning packs, but I just use this to get out any insects, bits of leaves, any dirt that's just floating around or underneath the water. And that's a good idea just to help keep your water nice and clean. If you've got an underwater vacuum cleaner, even better, you can use that. LAY-Z-SPA do actually make an official underwater vacuum cleaner. Tip 6, which is really important, if you've got a Chem Connect device or a floating device, make sure that the chlorine tablet is always topped up. Never let that get completely empty. You can buy these test strips, which is an easy way to check the chemical levels in your LAY-Z-SPA, and then you can adjust the chlorine levels using your Chem Connect device. Tip number 7, make sure you change your filter regularly. Having a clean, fresh filter will really help keep your water nice and clean. And I recommend putting in a brand new one every couple of weeks. This is what a dirty filter looks like, and this is a brand new clean one. Tip number 8, if you live in a hard water area like we do, just take a look at our kettle. It's really important to add a descaler to keep your water nice and clean. Not only does this help keep your water nice and clean, it also helps keep your heating unit clean. And all you need to do is add a very tiny amount of this weekly. Tip 9, when you're not using your LAY-Z-SPA, make sure that you always put the lid on. This stops any dirt getting in there, leaves, flies, insects, things like that. And I highly recommend as well using a thermal cover. That really helps retain the heat. And there's a link above now where I review the official LAY-Z-SPA thermal cover. Tip number 10, always leave the water filtration system running. This is only very low wattage, about 50 watts, but this helps keep your water really clean because it's constantly pumping the water through the filter system. So even when you're not using it, always leave this on. And tip number 11, every 2 to 3 months you will need to empty the LAY-Z-SPA and replace it with fresh water. And there's a link above now about how to do that. That is a pretty simple process.
How the hell did we end up in the 80s?
I don't know. Must be some kind of hot tub time machine. If you found that video useful, please subscribe by pressing this button down here if you don't want to miss more videos on how to save you time and money. There's also some other videos around the edge of the screen. If any of those are useful to you, you can select those now.